Hey everyone, Lincoln Smith here with Eastwood Guitars. I had a chance recently to sit down with one of my friends, Mr. Zach Broyles, the man behind one of our favorite pedal companies, Mythos Pedals. Before we get to that, I just want to remind everyone that we have a brand new forum on the Eastwood site. Just go to eastwoodguitars.com and you'll see the forum link at the top of the page. Enjoy the interview. So, I have, as the page heading, I wrote down Zach Broyles, the man behind the Mythos.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah. You thought about that one.
Wait, okay. How many times have you heard that before? And be honest with me. Don't let me down easy.
I don't know if I've heard that iteration. So that's good. That's good.
All right, cool. Chalk one up for me on the scoreboard then, I guess.
Perfect.
Cool. So I think any person who's familiar with guitar pedals, any pedal head, would knows the name Mythos these days. Like if they're super into pedals, they're familiar with the name.
I hope.
Yeah, but up until recently, it was just you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Has that ever like kind of caught you off guard of the amount of recognition that you've been able to build? Or that would be, I think maybe humbling and on my part, you know?
Yeah, there are definitely moments when I look back at the little milestones that have happened throughout me attempting to do this full time and think like, what all I've accomplished as one person.
Yeah.
And there have been a few moments that really like solidified that I was doing the right thing and that all this hard work was paying off. But yeah, I think the things that shocked me the most is just how much work I've put in because when you're doing it, you don't have a time card for yourself most of the time. At least I don't.
Yeah.
And when I look back on how many pedals I've made just alone, it kind of makes me sick thinking, oh gosh, I really should have had help years ago.
And then you wake up and it's been all a dream and you have all those pedals to build again.
Oh no, man. So for those that don't know, I finally hired somebody and I hope to hire more people, but I hired Jesse Rue. He builds Rude Tech pedals. That's his brand, but in addition to that, he was looking for another gig. So he's been working with me and we finally got all the standard pedals were caught up, which has been since March of 2020. I've had, anywhere from 30 to 600 pedals to build at any given moment. And
yeah,
to be that caught up is really, really weird.
Yeah. For a one-man operation, for the amount of demand that I see versus the amount of work that it has to be, I'm guessing you were kind of living in backwater land, which isn't a bad place to be in either.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the pandemic, something I had wanted to do and had thought about, because all of my dealers are very, they're really customer based and they have these great relationships with their customers. And yeah. I had thought, maybe I'll just stop selling direct for any normal things. And so I made that decision to say, hey, like I'm not going to take any direct sales except for like limited edition or, special colors or something. And if I had continued to do dealers and sell direct, it would have been too much. But every dealer order, sometimes it would take a month to get, even the most basic order done, which is really stressful. It's just perpetual stress. So I'm finally starting to not feel that. And it's weird. It's like, why do I feel happy more often than not? It's strange. I don't understand it.
Let's put one and one together. Okay, I want to come back around to the more recent changes too. But just for anyone, hearing you speak about it for the first time, you're hearing the story. First of all, go to your website because you've got a great kind of mission statement written out there and the idea of the company.
Yeah, I need to update it. It's old.
But it's in a sense timeless. It's really iconic branding. I feel like if Mythos didn't exist, there would be a gap in the marketplace that you'd feel like you'd recognize that there's like a gap that it would leave a vacuum, in my opinion, of especially really drive centric and fuzz tones and getting really interesting. How did it kind of come about? How did it solidify?
With the with the name, or
Uh,
that's
just kind of the concept of like the ideation stage of like starting a business. Because at the time, were you at Carter at the time, Carter Vintage?
oh, when I started Mythos?
Yeah.
No. Mythos started in 2010. So this was well before Carter wasn't even, open yet. Um, I I'd been mucking around with pedals for years. I had been modifying stuff I still own, and for a while I operated guitarpedalmods.com. I still have that URL.
Okay.
And I did a ton of like pedal mods. I bought Brian Wampler's book, and had just notebooks upon notebooks of every pedal I had bought and modded, and what I liked, and so I did all these pedal mods, and eventually started, I built a fuzz face from scratch, and then built some kits and stuff. And
Hmm.
when the Klon finally got traced, which I can't remember, I think that was like 2008, 2009. It finally leaked what it
Yeah.
was. I really wanted one because that's back when they were $500 or whatever. The ridiculous money. And
The unobtainium of
yeah,
our world.
but I decided I wanted to make some for myself, and I had a bunch of friends because I told them what I wanted to do, and they're like, "Well, I would take one." And I thought, well, I need a brand name, just for fun, because even that, that was just, this was only for fun. It wasn't like
Yeah.
a business. um and I initially wanted to call it Mythological Pedals, and the Zeus thing came pretty early. But my friend Mike Hale said, "Hey, you should call it Mythos because that's Greek for myth." And I thought, that's way smarter and cooler. So that's what I did. So yeah, the first Mythos pedal was the Mjolnir, and that was in October of 2010. So yeah, a while ago. But
Yeah.
but I started taking it seriously after Carter,
Okay.
which, and like around 2015, I thought I'm really going to try. And it was slow at first, but yeah, that's when I really like, it turned less into just something I did for myself and a few friends to an actual, like, an attempt at a thing.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, Mythos, it just has a ring to it. It's not a word that you hear in everyday conversation. Maybe if you're listening really closely, you might hear it organically come up in conversation like once a week, so it stands out.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Um, it seems there's like since 2010 in that time frame, it seems like there are so many smaller pedal companies popping up. You have the bigger Boss and TC Electronic and stuff, but um, we've seen a lot of smaller pedal companies come up. Do you think that this is a little bit of an evolution of the industry, or maybe even a regression of the industry? Uh, Regression has a negative term, so let's not call it that, but kind of a return to form as far as, old fuzz boxes getting built in the 60s. And
Um, I don't. No, I think it's just, we are finally at a point with technology where everybody who's been doing this for themselves can now have a logo and an Instagram account, and make a quote unquote brand. Be it someone who's making one pedal a month or 1,000 pedals a month. But I think we're finally starting to see all the people just get off the forums and try to like make this into more of just a hobby, because it's just never been easier. And I don't mean that it's easy to make pedals. That's not what I'm saying. It's, it's easy to get boxes powder coated and printed, kind of. It's easier to design circuits. It's easier to get packaging and do all the things that the people before, me, just kind of struggled with. And that's why, I think you see the originators of the boutique industry, they used bent metal boxes, like, Mike Fuller and George Trips. They had like these cool enclosures because they just had to work with what they could get or make. And now it's just, if you want to make a pedal, you buy a Hammond style enclosure and drill some holes in it, and there's websites readily available. And I think we're going to see a lot of these smaller brands kind of, they ebb and flow. They come in and out of favor, and they oftentimes when things start doing well, um, it starts getting hard. And I think we're going to see some of these kind of fade. And not to say that that's, good or bad. It's just, I think, the nature of things. But it is cool to see how many people are trying to do this in their own very unique way.
Yeah, it's not like you have to take apart an old radio anymore to, build a guitar pedal like
Now,
60 years ago.
yeah, and a lot of the people that are doing stuff now, a lot of the smaller guys, so many people are coming at it from an engineering perspective, with actual schooling, and they're doing digital things. And so a lot of the smaller boutique guys are making things that, to me, it's like, wow, that's like complicated. And it's not the things that I think of, or even the pedals I would use if I was playing guitar. But it's pretty cool how we've seen a resurgence of the old school, literally point to point style construction tag board builds, people doing that. This is like a renaissance of that, I think. And juxtaposed to that are these crazy digital things that are just made by somebody who's just starting out.
Yeah. So a pushing of the envelope of like, this is something that wouldn't have been possible without more complex, circuitry, or kind of digiation. Is that a word? Digitalization. That's
Digitalization, yeah. Digiation, that's like a Digimon thing. That's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, all those Digimon cartoons consumed are coming back to haunt me. What you said earlier about like when things start to get successful for a small company, it's interesting. Well, I'm sure you've done a lot of reflecting on this. That can be a breaking point of like, things are getting this serious. Do I keep pushing myself? Do I push the limits and kind of get over that hump to whatever the next bigger stage of my thing is? And I think right now, if everyone wants a perfect example of that, they should check out what you're up to right now. Which I think it's cool to talk about this publicly, because you and Rhett talked about this, I believe. Is he moving into the Novo building?
Yeah.
Those guys.
Yeah. So they're Novo's,
by the way.
Oh, thank you. Novo's expanding. They're in like a big industrial park thing, and the unit next door is open, and so we're still waiting on lawyers to draw up lease agreements and stuff. But man, they're growing by leaps and bounds, and Matthew had, I say joked, I don't think he was joking. He had said once in the past, like, hey, you could just like post up in the back here. And I thought, oh yeah, no, whatever. And then no joke, the day he talked to me about it, I was getting ready to go into town to look at some commercial spaces, and he called me and said, hey, we're getting the unit next door, we think. Do you want to rent that from us? And I said, yes, without even looking at it. It could have been smaller than my garage where I work now, but that's where I want to be. So
that's awesome. I've worked with Matthew and know him well. Actually, when I met you at NAMM, I was there with Matthew. Just for any viewers that don't know, that's our Revolta line of products. Is designed by Dennis Fano of Novo.
Yes.
And, produced by us, distributed by the Novo team now. And our product manager, Wes, is in their office and works really closely. But yes, Matthew is such a giving guy. I can like just imagine him like making an off the shoulder remark or offer. They're like, you don't mean that.
Yeah. Yeah, and once like we were just waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen. He's told Dennis a few times, like, hey, if you don't push these guys, I'm just going to stick Zach in here with you. Which I would enjoy. He might not.
Fuzz pedal tests going on through the wall and
yes.
Nice. The with this move, I don't know. We talked about reaching those growing pain points and pushing through. Is this the first one of those that you faced? Is this chapter 2 for Mythos Pedals, or is this chapter 3 or 4 in the book that would be Mythos Pedals.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like the first chapter would be me like figuring out, oh, this is how you make a pedal and make it like reproducible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then 2 would be actually trying and say, you know, because I said this on the first podcast I ever did with Rhett on his like backstage journal podcast. When I decided to try, I went to the bank, I opened another bank account and put $1,000 in it and said, if I can survive in this business with just $1,000, and I already, you know, I had like tools and, you know, some parts,
Sure.
but I said, if I could keep this account afloat, then I'm just going to keep going. And that's how that started. So that would be like chapter 2. And I think this is probably chapter 4. You know, chapter 3 was when I made the transition to surface mount and making my life easier. So I wasn't bending resistor leads for days on end. But yeah, this is the middle of the book, I think.
Yeah, man, exciting steps along the way. Is this any easier than, well, I'm guessing probably the scariest step was that original $1,000. Is this going to work? I'm going to really try at it.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I've never been scared of taking a chance. Yeah. My dad is an entrepreneur, and he's fallen on his ass many times with stupid business deals, you know. And so, you know, I mean, I talked to everybody about it, and I knew I had, you know, I had the money. I had saved and saved and saved. So like that wasn't that big of a concern. $1,000 sucks to lose, sure, but it was more or less just, you know, is it even feasible? And yeah, I think the scariest thing has been, for me with the growing pains is the investment. Now that like after it got successful, and these are the things that I don't think a lot of people think about, because so many people relate pedals like, oh, there's only $30 worth of parts in a pedal or whatever. But what you don't see is that, oh, if you're a pedal brand, that one pedal, you know, may have X amount of parts, but to build a whole line of them, you have to have tens of thousands of components and things like that. That has been the scariest thing. Now that it's got to a scale where I'm the demand is there, so I have to order huge numbers of enclosures and thousands of foot switches, and you're like, how much money am I spending a month? Like that has been freaky, and sometimes it just makes you go, I don't know. But the hardest thing through all this was last year, and the amount of pressure and stuff. Yeah.
The you know, you're your own operations manager. You have to figure out those logistics. You have to run your own supply lines.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, so those $30 worth of parts in a pedal are, you know, just a cog in a large, well-oiled machine that costs money to run too.
Yeah.
But money and time and stress and tears and all that good stuff.
Oh man, yeah. My hair has been slowly turning white since high school, but over the past few years, it's really like coming on. Every time I'm out in the sun and my wife sees the crown of my head, she's like, "Oh my God, like look at all that white hair." And it's like, oh no.
This might have kicked it into low gear. This is the one that's really powering you through. Mm-hmm. Speaking of changes in kind of period of growth, your newest pedal, correct me if I'm wrong, the newest pedal is the Oracle Analog Echo.
It is. I have one right here. Here's one I prepared earlier.
That's sharp. What is that? Is that a Dakota Red, a Fiesta Red? Where did you?
So the color, and this is one of those things, and my favorite delays are old Ibanez and Boss delays, and they're all like various shades of red. And so I wanted something that kind of lived in between that. And so this is actually called Barbie Pink, but every photograph of it, it looks a different color. So on my website, on my laptop, it looks right, but literally every photo I see on Instagram, it looks red. But no, it's kind of like, it looks like a Barbie, like a little plastic Barbie car.
That sort like of really hot pink.
It's not hot pink. It's a weird magenta-y red.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe.
I hesitated saying hot pink because I was like, this is hotter than hot pink.
Yeah. When I was deciding, I bought Because for those that don't know, if you want like to get every like sample of powder coat, you just have to like buy these like little keychains of them. And I had all these pinks, and yeah, we narrowed it down to a really hot pink, and then this one was just, I'd never seen a pedal this color, but it looks, I don't know, it looks very much in between like an old Ibanez and Boss color. But yeah, this is a full analog echo delay pedal with the tap.
Yeah, it is. I know that you've featured you have featured some delay and echo effects in like the Lark and the Sus Mario Sep that you did for Rhett and for RJ.
Yeah.
Is this your first effect that's broadly distributed that focuses mainly on a timing effect?
Oh yeah, yeah. And this one, I had initially designed, well, and I didn't design these. Sorry, I hired designers because these are outside of my wheelhouse. And instead of, there's always that crossroads whenever you're doing things for yourself to decide, do I want to learn how to do all this myself, or do I want to have someone who knows how to do it and hire them and work, collaborate and pay them? And I had initially done an Oracle delay idea that was like a digital delay that was like a tape echo, and it had subdivisions and modulation and preamp, and it was cool, but it had some gremlins I couldn't chase out. And so John Snyder of Experimental Audio Effects, I can never remember his name or his brand name, it always confuses me, but EAE, he and I got together on this, and it's basically all my favorite Japanese pedals in one. It's an original design, but yeah, this is the first full like standalone non-overdrive fuzz thing.
It's beautiful, and you know there are some delay units, like you said, some of those like digital delay units have just so much going on.
Yeah.
And what I've always appreciated about your pedals too is that you can look at it and know generally how it works. You know, you can play with it and figure out exactly how it wants to act.
Sometimes.
But you generally know how it works, you know?
Yeah, yeah. The positron collider, I don't know if you saw that one. That was my Ghostbuster inspired one. That one confused people. Even the Golden Fleece, which just has a knob that says more. Most people think it's gain, it's volume. And so that confuses people sometimes.
That's
but yeah.
I'm looking across the room on my pedal board right now.
And I mean, that's my whole philosophy with the brand. And I think anybody who's successful kind of follows this sort of mantra, in that or not, that's not the right word, maybe ethos.
Hey, bring in some more Greek.
Like, you make things that you would want to enjoy, and then that you are excited about. And my favorite pedals are just ones that don't do a whole lot. I mean, they do a lot, but it's more about the connection of your guitar and your amp, and the pedal just kind of takes it and pushes it in another direction. And even like the Oracle, it's not a drastic delay, it's not in your face. And I spent a lot of time just dialing the mix control so that it wasn't too wet, because I don't like that. So yeah, I make things that I like. I'm the snakes and sparklers guy from Joe Dirt, you know.
Well, I always appreciate that. Like if someone can really put their own ear to it and kind of step outside of like the ones and twos, they can see. Yeah, I feel like that's where you get a lot of the pedals that you can't make sound bad. That you know, you really will get a good tone. It's just a range of preference rather than range of function. That's kind of a weird way to describe it, but you know what I mean? If you have a full range of function, then you're going to get 90% of that that's just unusable. But if you really hear it out and find a range of preference, I think you do that really well from everything I've seen.
Thank you.
I have just a few more questions, but I know we're running a little bit over, but I'm having fun.
Good.
You mentioned setting, you know, a pedal pushing a particular guitar a certain direction, and it being a guideline rather than a mask.
Yeah.
Do you have, when you're designing pedals, do you have specific guitar tones in mind, or do you have certain pickups in mind? I asked you this on a live stream actually like a month or two ago, but do you have what you feel like is the vanilla of guitar pickups?
Right. I mean, I don't there have definitely been moments where I've designed things to do a thing, like the chupacabra is my approximation of the ZZ Top sound sort of thing. Um, but oftentimes it's more about just finding the tones, or I'll be chasing a sound in my head sometimes, but it's more of like an idea of a sound, not necessarily like, oh, I want to sound like this record, or I want this fuzz with this particular sound. It's more of like, I want something that feels like this under my hands, or I want it to um, clean up in a certain way, or the more of the, again, just like the connection of the player and the instrument. I look for that. I mean, it just depends on what is striking my fancy. The delay was, I wanted something that felt like my old delays but was mine and had some more interesting features and more delay time.
Yeah.
But the chupacabra, I wanted it to sound like the first couple of ZZ Top records, and so I spent a while like really going through as many circuits as possible till I found something that kind of fit in that groove.
Yeah.
But as far as like pickups and amps and like, what sort of like, where do I start in that? I don't. If I made a pedal that only worked with one thing, I would be really disappointed in myself. And I have done that, and I scrapped it because not everybody plays humbuckers.
Huh.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, we'll just let me be the complete lay person, because I got into pedals like several years ago, so I'm not the most well-spoken person, I think, maybe when it comes to it. That's just moment to be self-deprecating.
that's
But
fine. I do it
um,
all the time.
the would you describe, and this is me shooting from the hip, a guitar and amp, they have the color of their tone, but a drive or a boost or a fuzz might give it a certain texture rather than changing the color of the tone.
Well, I think it depends. There's so many different ways to approach it. Oftentimes people use that mojo term of transparent.
Yeah.
Um, when I mean, like, I think a Klon style circuit is rather transparent. I mean, you could hear that it's there, but if you left it on all the time, no one would say, "Ooh, what pedal is that?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on how you approach the instrument and what you want a pedal to do. Because I know there's a lot of great pedal builders I know that their pedals sound like an entire shift of the sound. It sounds like a channel switcher or something has
Yeah.
happened. Whereas a lot of my stuff, fuzzes and weird things notwithstanding, I want it to sound like more of a nudge in a direction and just not mask what's there, because again, that's not how I play guitar, and that's not the sound I hear in my head. So every almost every sound is out there in a pedal somewhere, and if I don't make it, or somebody doesn't make it, chances are there's probably someone that does. So it's a pretty incredible rabbit hole to go down, but it can be real expensive and
Yeah, no kidding.
an arduous journey.
The book might be never ending on
Yeah.
variation and effect pedals.
Yes.
Well, Reverb, some folks from Reverb just made that pedal movie. I haven't gotten around to it. Have you checked it out?
No, no, and I made a joke. Someone said I need to get over myself, because I said I'm not going to watch it because I'm not in it. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think they asked me, or no, they didn't ask me. They made a post about like you can take a picture of your workbench and they'll put it in the credits or something. And I think most of the people that got in it that I knew, the smaller people, it was something like that.
Yeah.
But no, like I honestly, if I was curious about the history of a company or something, I would just call that person.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm in a different position than most people. Like most people don't talk to Josh Scott multiple times a week. I do, because we're in the same thing and we're friends. So, just a different world.
Totally.
Yeah.
Going through some moves, you are kind of setting up a new workspace next door to the Novo offices. You were talking with Rhett the other day. Rhett just moved his whole home studio. It got me thinking, what is your personal favorite piece of gear that's not a guitar effect?
Oh, well, I should say pedals are not my favorite thing anyway.
Oh. Fair enough.
Probably my favorite piece of gear that I own and I will never get rid of no matter what would be I have an acoustic. I have a 1955 J50. And I'm not a huge acoustic guitar player, but that guitar is really special. And
Yeah.
that's something I could see, giving to my son, and hopefully he would give to his son and so on, because it's really special. And I love that thing.
Man, you can just kind of feel that too. If you pick up something that's that old and has vibrated in that way for so many years, it has a certain kind of, I don't know. It's got like runes carved into it somewhere just from like the,
yeah, it's so much there's so much story in those guitars, and especially mine was played by, we got it at an auction in my hometown of Sparta, Tennessee. And the guy that owned it, he might have had it its whole life. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so beat up. There are marks on the neck from where he put the capo on like the second and third fret, because he played barn dances, like line dances.
Oh yeah.
Like every weekend. And so
bluegrass positions there.
Yeah. And so he was just playing these like, dance tunes for, all these people out in a barn somewhere. And like it's such a cool, it's got such a cool vibe, and it sounds so good because someone played it every weekend for probably its whole life, and 55. So that's, it's 68-ish years, it's a long time.
It's had a fun life.
Yeah.
Man. And then, okay. So that was one of my 2 fun questions, because I'm curious in the life of, in the life of a pedal builder, does that separate you a little bit if like your favorite gear is like not related to your work? Does that kind of where that comes from?
No, I just honestly, me as a guitar player, I don't play that many pedals. My pedal board is typically, I'll use some sort of overdrive, some sort of delay, and then maybe a fuzz or modulation, like a univibe sort of thing. So I'm a very minimalistic guitar player. Like if I showed up to a gig and I just had my guitar and there was just an amp, I'd be like, all right, I can make it work. That's just how I approach the instrument. And I think that has informed why I like the pedals that they feel connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, I disappoint people so much because they ask what kind of pedal board I have, and I have hundreds of pedals. But yeah, I never even have a pedal board. I just throw them on the floor. If they have batteries, I'll use batteries.
Fair enough. Get some good old 9-volt batteries, and
always test them on your tongue. You taste the metal for an hour or so. It's fine.
Yeah. It'll wake you up before a set. Yeah. So you and Rhett do the Dipped in Tone podcast.
Yes.
Is there anything coming up that you want to plug, or your new pedals? I know the Oracle Analog Echo is a big one.
The Oracle has been really, really great. I think if you are into Analog Echo, check it out. Luckily, because of the move and because of the help, I'm finally starting to get stores restocked more frequently, and thankfully, because of everything, people are starting to open back up and you can go try the things. Definitely checked out Dipped in Tone. And the only other thing that I'm kind of working on, just to keep your eyes and ears open for some Mythos pickups, maybe. So
Mythos pickups. I heard you thinking out loud about Mythos pickups, and I would like to put my personal name on that list, but
we'll see. I mean, I feel very lucky because having worked at Carter, I've played most of the classics, and been very, like literally taking guitars apart and looked at them and plugged them up and checked them out and measured them, and so I've never built one yet, but it's one of those things. Like I'd never made a Proton pack.
Yeah,
most people haven't. Yeah, it's not a common thing. But I have watched prop building YouTube videos for years, and when I finally started, I was like, okay, well, I know what to do. I just need this tool and make this, and then that's how that goes. And so I've been watching pickup winder videos. I mean, for I don't know, 6 years, 7 years, and I'm ready to get started. So I don't know. What's that?
And you're caught up. You might have bandwidth now that you haven't had in years, it sounds like.
Well, I say cut up. I still have I have hundreds of the Wildwood Mjolnir to make, which is a pedal I make for Wildwood guitars.
That's
There's a big wait list for those. So this is going to be, it's a slow process, but I'm really excited because I feel like Mythos as a brand can exist in more than just pedals. You know, I want to
yes.
do a little bit of everything because I'm just a guitar nut. So
Man, I wear my Mythos sweatshirt out. I'll go ahead and plug your merch because I like your merch.
Well, the merch is going to be moving in house, and we're going to have all new merch, and I'm going to handle it, and it's going to be fancy and new. But yeah, you can check. I mean, it's all on the website. You can go to mythospedals.com and check out everything I've got going on over there.
Absolutely. I wear that sweatshirt out and I feel like somebody recognizes the name like every time I go out.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that? I go to CME a lot, so that probably explains it.
Oh yeah, they've emailed a few times, and I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of fans. You've got a lot of fans there. I'll say that.
Well, that's awesome. I need to go back. The first time I went, Mythos was still very fledgling, and I didn't have the gall to talk to anybody. So
it's intimidating. You're walking into a museum, and like, you know, you don't want to tug at the sleeve of the curator. You know?
Yeah. Hey, can I show you something?
Man, you would be a welcome addition, and I think everyone there would agree with that. But for the last question to kick it off, I've asked RJ this, I asked Diana Erico, our Lap Steel ambassador, this. What's your Desert Island album? Do you have an album that, like, if you had to choose one for the rest of your life, you couldn't listen to anything else?
Probably Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just from the guitar playing to the production to the songs, like the songs are great. Like I love that record. I don't know though, you know, I might just lay there and listen to the ocean until I wither away.
I'm thinking about this now, and that's an album that I should actually consider. You make me rethink my answer, because you could probably listen to that and find something new in it every time.
Yeah, every time I have listened to it, you'll hear things that you glossed over, and then you'll get reminded of things that are like really special. I mean, that just the whole production and everything in that record is it's perfect. It's perfect, and I love it.
Well, Zach Broyles, Mythos Pedals, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll have to have you back sometime.
Anytime.
Great speaking with you, my friend.
See ya.